Om Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Stavakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namaha Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadrita Vigraham Vai Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampadrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirasa Namami Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who is adored by all, pure, eternal, infinite by nature. Out of His infinite grace on the devotees, the Divine Supreme has assumed a human form in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. Let us bow down to Him. Let us try to dwell upon the personality of Sri Ramakrishna. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme Godhead. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic, I am continuing Master's teachings. Sri Ramakrishna's masterly teachings. Sri Ramakrishna, through his life, has shown to us how to live our life in this world. This human life is very significant and it has got supreme value. But on account of ignorance, on account of lack of spiritual education, people are not realizing the importance of this human life. In the sense, they are utilizing the most precious time of this life in things not useful for the upliftment of the soul. In other words, people are getting more and more involved in non-spiritual things, the result of which brings them never-ending miseries in life. So miseries are created by our own actions. God has given intellect. We are not using it properly. God has given us mind. We are careless about it. God has given many faculties for us to uplift ourselves, to rise to the level of divine. But we are not going in a proper way. So, we are stranded actually in this world, moving without any direction, drowning ourselves in this ocean of worldliness. None can help us unless we resolve with strong determination, with courage and boldness, with calmness and tranquility, to fight out all the hurdles in life. Hurdles do come. Obstacles will be there. But that's the way we have to go through. There lies the game. If there are no hurdles at all, no game at all. Because the hurdles are there, your courage, your compassion, your friendliness, all these come to important play. So, we have to understand the sufferings in proper perspective. Swami Vivekananda has quoted very nicely in the poem, Angels Unawares. Angels Unawares. Beautiful poem. It is in the complete works of Vivekananda, volume 4. There Swamiji talks about miseries. He says in that poem, then sorrow came, and wealth and power went, and made him kinship find with all the human race, in groans and tears. And though his friends would laugh, his lips would speak in grateful accents, "O blessed misery." The serene feeling of equanimity of a man, of knowledge, has been depicted so beautifully in the above lines by Swami Vivekananda in this poem. This idea may perhaps leave us stranded, wondering how misery can produce bliss. The great discomfort caused to our mind or body is termed misery or suffering. There are miseries and miseries. The world is full of miseries, says the Holy Mother. To the wise people, everything in the world is either full of misery or full of bliss, because their mind is not agitated by adversaries, and they are desireless as regards pleasures. They don't hanker after the sensual things of this world. In fact, they transcend. But for the ordinary aspirants, it's a mixture of both pleasure and pain that they have to negotiate in the course of their life. Though from our own experience, each of us know that one has to accept both pleasure and pain with equanimity, our inherent tendency to avoid pain, or in other words, our weakness to avoid encountering it, has conferred on misery so much importance. There is a great fact. Strength is life. Weakness is death. Famous quotation of Swami Vivekananda. Strength is felicity, life eternal, immortal. Weakness is constant strain and misery. Weakness is death. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda. Can any consideration of even serious injuries ever deter us from participating in our favorite games? Similarly, it's a sporting spirit that matters most for enabling us to face miseries squarely. There are two inevitable ends, birth and death, circumscribing our life on earth. What can therefore be a greater misery for a life than death? Immortality is that which transcends the limits of life and goes beyond its transcendent beauty and glory. To an embodied being, suffering comes in different forms. The subhuman beings are not aware of them, though their sufferings are no less. However, we shall see that a part of the adhyatmic suffering is not meant for them. The repetition of the word Shanti, this repetition thrice to invoke peace. After all, Vedic prayers alludes to these three types of sufferings. Adhyatmika, which arise out of physical and mental causes within oneself. Adibhautika, which are caused by created beings. Adidevika, which befall due to the fury of elements, and so on. Sufferings under this category of Adhyatmika are related to life hereafter. The body and mind are the targets. The mind suffers from impurity, fear, base tastes, anger, greed, hatred, etc. Sufferings of the body are caused by death, disease, old age, accidents, and so on. Since we are a compound of body and mind, many of the sufferings are correlated and are called psychosomatic. So any suffering caused to either of them permeates both. As our physical ailments affect our mind, so also the mental agonies harm our physique. They say mind plays a vital role in the cure of diseases. Likewise, body plays an equally vital role in keeping the mind cheerful. The body-mind complex is a container, adhi, of the self, Atma. Adi, Atma, Adhyatma. So the complex is called Adhyatma, body-mind complex. And all the sufferings experienced by it are called Adhyatmika Dukkha. As the Vedantas say, There is an apparently intractable knot or superimposition of these two. The body, mind, of 5 sheets: material, mental, vital, knowledge and blissful, and the self. These 5 sheets together form our gross, subtle and causal bodies. The sufferings experienced by mind and body affect us so much because we feel identified with the mind and the body. That's how the observation of Shankara. There continues a natural human behavior based on self-identification in the form, I am this. Shankara, in his preface to the Brahma Sutras, it is explained, as manifested through human behavior, the gross body suffers miseries due to myriads of diseases and troubles like bad odor, deformity, etc. The subtle body suffers from desire, anger, greed, delusion, pride and jealousy. They harm the mindset of people, no matter whether they are sensual or spiritual. The worldly persons suffer helplessly, surrendering to the baneful influence of desires, while the spiritual aspirants suffer fighting against them. The suffering of the causal body is rather obscure and therefore difficult to comprehend. It happens in the state of deep sleep. We forget ourselves and everything around us and get up the same fool as we were before falling into sleep. So the causal body has this suffering to bear. There is no difference in this respect between a defenseless baby and a defenseless minister. Defenseless baby and defense minister. Precisely, what are they which cause so much suffering to the core of our empirical existence? The Yoga Sutra says, ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion and fear of death, or clinging to life, is the cause of all the succeeding afflictions, because it is the repository of all impressions and it produces contrary knowledge that I am the body, not the self, and so on. Of course, the ignorance we are talking about here is different from the primeval ignorance of the Vedantins, as when Shankara says, who get all the seeds of evil burnt away. He defines the Mula Vidya as a seed or the origin of all afflictions or evils. Among others, egoism is also a cause of suffering because it produces the ideas like I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, etc. I am the doer and such other forms of egoism are prescribed by the delusion that I am the body. So the conclusion is that egoism has avidya for its foot. From asmita originates attachment to all objects of pleasure. There are impressions of pleasures imprinted on this mind tape that we experienced in the past. We activate them, that is, remember them, which is called smriti, and then feel a thirst for all pleasurable things. Everybody desires for his or own benefit. It is nothing but a kind of attachment. Because of such attachment, we feel aversion to hostile and unfavorable objects. Though no fool would like to invite misery, they only are wise who are not oversensitive to either happiness or misery. The clinging to life or the fear of death is called abhinivesha. Due to the presence of raga, we want to cling to life, and similarly, due to dvesha, we are intimidated by death. Fear is generated in our mind by an object which we feel is hostile to us and therefore can cause harm to us. Fear is natural for all beings ranging from the creator Brahma to a lowly worm. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad records the first cry of Brahma as, out of fear, Brahma cried. Swamiji, in his exposition of the word Abhinivesha, has shown how our past experiences of various kinds of fear have been retained by us as fine and hidden impressions, which in the psychological language of the yogis are called samskaras. He summarized the discussion saying, the recurring experiences of previous fears in course of time produce this clinging to life, and men are so fond of life that they desire a future life also. Next category is Adi Bhautika, sufferings. The first one is Adhyatmika suffering, second one is Adi Bhautika. These sufferings are caused by the types of beings, those whom we regard as our own and those to whom we are averse. Sufferings inflicted by insects, snake bites, tigers, enemies, etc. are thrust upon us. We have to live with them. So there is no way to get rid of such contingencies. Similarly, there are miseries caused to us by our near and dear ones also, sometimes without the least intention on their part. People think that they will continue to live after death in their progeny and in the memories of their near and dear ones. That's how the table of heirship and the succession acts are chalked out. There are classes of descendants. The heirs are given shares of one's estates in that they are benefactors here and hereafter. But at the same time, they are causes of measureless misery in most cases. We can't deny that sometimes we are loved by our heirs because of our riches, and sometimes we are even killed by them for the same. This is a continuous, natural human behavior. Hence, an unending source of natural human miseries. Next comes Adidaivika. They are caused due to natural phenomena called calamities like storm, fire, flood, earthquakes, and so on. They are called acts of gods. That is, providence or destiny is one of the common efficient causes of a work. It's always there, manifesting itself at times benevolently, at other times malevolently, and at still other times naturally. We have hardly any power against Daiva even to act defensively. We can't have any powers to resist them. The Taittiriya Upanishad, one of the famous Dashopanishads, on which Shankaracharya has written commentaries, has given a chart of successively higher and higher grades of bliss. The way beyond miseries. The unit of the highest human bliss is equated with the joy of a young man in the prime of life, good, learned, the best ruler, having all the senses intact, strong, and the king ruling over the earth. From this list, we can easily infer the opposites that can be counted as human miseries. When we are aging, we lament over the past. When we don't get fame, we feel ashamed. When we are not learned, we suffer from inferiority complex. When we are handicapped, physically or mentally, we are helpless. When we are weak, we feel hopeless. And when we are ruled by others, we feel oppressed. These together may well constitute a unit of human misery. So, to have a positive attitude about understanding this work of the misery is important. Misery as such is impartial. It is on the right attitude of the person. The blessedness of misery depends. Jesus has said, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." And enduring misery voluntarily as a means for a higher life has been advocated by the scriptures. Explaining physical and mental sufferings to Arjuna, Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, "Matras prashastu kaunteya shitoshna sukudukkadaha agama payanuntyastam sitikshasva bharata." Contact of the senses with their objects generates cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They come and go, being impermanent. Bear with them patiently, O Arjuna. The right attitude is that misery or suffering pertains to the body. Sri Ramakrishna tells in the Gospel, one is aware of pleasure and pain, birth and death, disease and grief, as long as one is identified with the body. All these belong to the body alone and not to the soul. The Naishkarmi Siddhi, the famous scriptures, and the Adhyatmika Ramayana present a wheel of death and birth as understood by the Advaitins. The cause of happiness and misery is the body, and the cause is the unseen result of good and bad actions. The cause of these is attachment and hatred. Their causes are likes and dislikes, and favorable and unfavorable thoughts. Their cause is the idea of difference. Its cause is ignorance about the identity of oneself with Brahman. Let us not increase our misery by our own foolish acts, but let us imbibe a right attitude to endure it. Man-made misery is a penalty we have to pay for our own attachments of varied kinds. Let us purify our attitude and turn cursed misery into blessed misery in our Lord's name. Kunti Devi, the mother of the Pandavas, most daringly prays to Lord Krishna, "O Krishna, let misfortunes be with us eternally." It is not a foolish act of devotee to impetuously invite endless misery. Her family's lot of miseries was already phenomenal. Yet she beseeched for more. Of course, she was by all means the most competent person to do so. However, she sets an example of unprecedented heroism. But look at the attitude of hers. Misery wins perhaps the one and only kudos in its life. Misery is as old as Saturn. And how astoundingly, in recognition of its misery's success, as it were, Swamiji confers blessedness on it by calling it blessed misery. Different from Kunti's approach, are the causes of the monks or the renunciates. As because they renounce their shares in worldly enjoyments in favor of their friends and relations, they are left with only miseries to suffer. And the body and the mind are the only grounds where one's prarabdha is worked out tangibly. That too becomes very intense when they want to exhaust all karmas in the present life itself. Hence, suffering is inevitable in the life of the renunciates. Yet, since they establish contact with their spiritual being, which is the absolute source of bliss, they remain happy in the midst of all the load of sufferings. Sufferings do come, whether a person lives a householder life or a monk's life. Sufferings are there, but you must know how to tackle them in a proper way. Sufferings do come to teach us lesson. In fact, Holy Mother said, sufferings are blessings in disguise. Through sufferings, we have to learn. But those who do not learn through suffering have to suffer more and more until they are determined to learn. Our strength to endure miseries is inversely proportional to our elation of delights. Having this test at hand, we can weigh our condition and take steps to equip ourselves to put up a fight against it. When all afflictions, along with all happiness, ceases, there is no birth and death for an aspirant. What to speak of small fries like us? Even the incarnations of God themselves suffered thousands of miseries, notwithstanding their own redeeming power. No difference can be found between the avatars on this score. In this one aspect at least, their earthly lives have got wonderful, tangible similarity. Sri Ramakrishna's own life is an illuminator. He was the dearest child of the Mother Kali. But when he, at the importunities of his disciples, particularly of Narendra, reluctantly prayed to the mother for lessening his throat pain so that he could eat a little, the Divine Mother admonished him saying, "Are you not eating through so many mouths? What more should we expect from a suffering God?" And Swamiji would muse saying, "And this is Maya." We must have an active attitude to misery. Sri Ramakrishna prescribes, as he always does, another simple but active solution to ward off miseries. He says, give an about turn to all the causes of misery. The Kathopanishad calls it Avritta Chakshuhu, one whose gaze has been turned away from the sense objects. All the evil propensities that would compel us to run after evil causes should be given a reverse orientation in order to force them to pursue a higher life. How wonderful it is! Suffer we have to. Why then not suffer for a sane purpose, for a great cause? The choice is ours. Einstein once observed, "My formula is neutral. The choice of whether to use it as a blessing or a curse lies with mankind." Sometimes the enemies thrive due to our active support or passive attitude towards them. Jesus has beautifully described this about turn in the following. For there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, and there are eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. And he did not make it mandatory for all. So he continued, he who is able to receive this, let him receive it. Shankaracharya says, karma has its source in desire. Since karma has its source in desires, since it stimulates action, for no impulsion to activity is possible in the case of those whose desires have been fulfilled. And fulfillment of desires follows from the desire for the self. Elsewhere, Shankaracharya has equated Atman with Ishvara. Now, shall we see what the Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi has to tell us in addition to this matter. She, being the mother, must be very deeply concerned about the welfare of her children. So her opinion has the maximum importance, and she was too simple to devise any complicated solution. She said, be desireless. There is then no need to show an olive branch to misery or be strong in its saddle, but simply to become desireless. This forms the essence of the Four Noble Truths taught by Buddha. On being asked how the internal enemies, such as lust, anger, etc., can be vanquished, Sri Ramakrishna said, so long as these passions are directed towards the world and its objects, they are enemies. But when they are directed towards the deity, they become the best friends of man, for they take him to God. The desire for things worldly must be changed into longing for God. The anger which you feel towards your fellow creatures must be directed towards God for not manifesting himself to you, and so on with all the other passions. The passions need not and cannot be eradicated, but they can be educated and turned into a different channel. Then it is possible to uplift ourselves and to have the vision of God and to make our life meaningful and blissful. The mind is like a restless child. It wants to run away. You must bring it back again and again and apply it to the meditation on the Lord. All through, we are continuously thinking or meditating upon the world. So we are getting the benefits of the world, what we should get. But if the same mind is turned towards meditating on God, you acquire all the things required for making life peaceful. But one has to do it calmly, steadily, without losing patience. Slowly the results will come. The divine results come in such a way, they come only after the mind is purified. The person who takes to spiritual practices, the first step is the impurities are got rid of. So loads of impurities are there in the mind. So it takes lot of time to get rid of those impurities. And that is the work of the spiritual practice. Without spiritual practice, loads of impurities are not removed. As long as they are there in the mind, they are obstructions for peace of mind. So, meditating on God, remembering the Supreme Divine, repeating His name constantly without losing patience for 2 or 3 years, and then an inexpressible joy will fill up your mind. This apparent universe which you see is within the domain of the mind. The mind is the author. The mind has conjured it up. It cannot go beyond its own domain. Behind the mind of which we are aware is a subtle spiritual mind existing in seed form. Through contemplation, through prayers and japa, this mind develops, and with its unfoldment a new vision opens. This subtle mind also cannot reach God, the Supreme Atman, but it leads you near Him. At this stage, the world loses all its charm for the aspirant. He remains absorbed in consciousness of God. Next comes samadhi. That is, the mind is totally absorbed in the divine. That's why in that samadhi state, one experiences ecstatic joy. When Sri Ramakrishna had samadhi, the whole universe was filled with divine consciousness. And Sri Ramakrishna remained in that state for a long, long time. Afterwards, Sri Ramakrishna declared the truth is revealed. Then no more delusion, no more any effect of maya, and the truth is revealed completely. Swami Brahmanji, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, said, give your body to worldly enjoyments and the world will destroy them both. Give them to God and His service, and you will enjoy bodily health, peace of mind and spiritual joy. So in what way you engage your body and mind is very important. If you engage this body and mind towards worldly things, you will have worldly effects. If you engage them in spiritual matters, you will have spiritual benefit. A person cannot see God unless he gives his whole mind to Him. The mind is wasted on cravings of the world. As long as there are cravings in the mind, one cannot expect the yoga to bloom in his mind. So, worries are inevitable in worldly pursuit. No sooner does one give up worldly pursuit than one finds peace. People talk of God, but their talks are lip deep. Do they really believe in Him? The Lord deals out according to one's karma. Everyone gets his due. Really, there is no cause for worries. But man doesn't believe in God, so he demands more than his due. This lies at the root of all his troubles and worries. All anxieties and worries come from egotism and selfishness. One should be free from egotism and selfishness. Then only you will have the experience of the spiritual glory. A person must strive to attain God with all his body, with all his mind, and with all his speech. Tan man dhan. By thinking day and night of God, one acquires the nature of God. First is the purification of the mind. Then if you direct the mind to the contemplation of God, it will be colored by God consciousness. But if you direct the mind to worldly duties, it will be colored by worldliness. So, the way is, have faith in the Guru's words. One attains God by following the Guru's instructions step by step. It is like reaching an object by following the trail of a thread. So the real knowledge is to know that Brahman is the only reality and that all else is unreal. That Brahman of the nature of reality is eternal. It exists in past, present and future. It is without beginning or end. It can't be described in words. The utmost that can be said of Brahman is that it is of the very nature of intelligence and bliss. Pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. Her vision dries up all craving for the world and completely destroys all attachment to the enjoyments of the world. It happens instantly. If you think of her as your own mother, she is by no means a godmother. She is your own mother. With a yearning heart, persist in your demands on her. Mother will surely grant what is needed for you. There is a difference between lust and desire that one should know. Lust is like the root of the tree, and desires are branches and twigs. One cannot completely get rid of the 6 passions, lust, anger, greed and the like. Therefore one should direct them to God. If you must have desire and greed, then you should desire love of God and be greedy to attain Him. If you must be conceited, you ask why Brahman doesn't act in consultation with others. It is Brahman's pleasure. Brahman is self-willed. Why should we try to know the reason for Brahman's acting this way or that? You have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. What's the good of calculating how many trees there are in the orchard, how many thousands of branches, and how many millions of leaves? One cannot realize truth by futile arguments and reasoning. Sri Ramakrishna says, I am asking you not to indulge in futile reasoning, but reason by all means about the real and the unreal, about what is permanent and what is transitory. You must reason when you are overcome by lust, anger or grief. Who can comprehend everything about God? It is not given to man to know fully any aspect of God, great or small. And what I need is there to know everything about God. It is enough if you only see Him. When shall I be free? When I shall cease to be. I means the ego. The real man is pure Atman. Atman is unattached and beyond Prakriti. It has neither hunger nor thirst. It knows neither birth nor death. It doesn't age nor does it die. It is immutable as Mount Sumeru. He who has attained this knowledge of Brahman is a Jivan Mukta, liberated while living in the body. He rightly understands that the Atman and the body are two separate things. After realizing God, one does not identify the Atman with the body. These two are separate like the kernel and the shell of the coconut. When the milk dries up, the Atman moves as it were within the body. When the milk of worldly-mindedness has dried up, one gets self-knowledge. Then one feels that Atman and body are two separate things. The kernel of a green almond or betel nut cannot be separated from the shell, but when they are ripe, the juice dries up and the kernel separates from its shell. After the attachment of the knowledge of Brahman, after the attainment of the knowledge of Brahman, the milk of worldly mindedness dries up. But it is extremely difficult to attain the knowledge of Brahman. If a person truly believes that God alone does everything, that He is the operator and man the machine, then such a man is truly liberated in life. Thou workest thy own work, men only call it theirs. Do you know what it is like? Vedanta philosophy gives an illustration. Suppose you are cooking rice in a pot with potato, eggplant and other vegetables. After a while, the potatoes, eggplants, rice and the rest begin to jump about in the pot. They seem to say with pride, we are moving, we are jumping. The children see it and think the potatoes, eggplant and rice are all alive, and so they jump that way. But the elders who know explain to the children that the vegetables and the rice are not alive. They jump not of themselves, but because of the fire under the pot. If you remove the burning wood from the hearth, they will move no more. Likewise, the pride of man, that he is the doer, springs from ignorance. Men are powerful because of the power of God. All becomes quiet when that burning wood is taken away. The puppets dance well on the stage when pulled by a wire, but they cannot move when the wire snaps. A man will cherish the illusion that he is a doer as long as he has not seen God, as long as he has not touched the philosopher's stone. So long will he know the distinction between his good and bad actions. This awareness of distinction is due to God's Maya, and it is necessary for the purpose of running his illusory world. But a man can realize God if he takes shelter under his Vidya Maya and follows the path of righteousness. He who knows God and realizes Him is able to go beyond Maya. He who firmly believes that God alone is the doer and he himself a mere instrument is a Jivan Mukta, a free soul though living in a body. And when fish are caught in a net, some do not struggle at all. Some again struggle hard to come out of the net, while a few are happy enough to effect their escape by rendering the net. So there are three sorts of people: the fettered, struggling and released, Baddha, Mumukshu and Mukta. The soul enhanced, who is enchained, is man, and free from chains is Shiva. No man keeps a total fast. Some get food at 9 a.m., others at noon, others at 2 p.m. and others in the evening. Similarly, at some time or other, in this life or after many lives, all will see God. As the same sugar is made into various figures of birds and beasts, birds and beasts, so one sweet Mother Divine is worshipped in various climes and ages, under various names and forms. Different creeds are but different paths to reach the ultimate reality. As a large and powerful steamer moves swiftly over the waters, towing rafts and barges in its wake, so when a Savior descends, he easily carries thousands across the ocean of Maya. When a Savior becomes incarnate, innumerable are the men who find salvation by taking refuge under him. When does a man get his salvation? When his egoism dies. The Brahma authorities criticized Vijaya for mixing with those who believed in God with form, saying that he was an idolater. But the spring in Vijaya's heart had opened at the touch of the Master. No longer could he remain one-sided, just a believer in formless reality and play a monotone. Vijaya said, "Sir, why are we bound like this? Why don't we see God?" Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Maya is nothing about the egotism of the embodied soul. Maya is nothing but the egotism of the embodied soul. This egotism has covered everything like a veil. All troubles come to an end when the ego dies. If by the grace of God a person but once realizes that he is not the doer, then he at once becomes a Jivan Mukta. This Maya, that is to say the ego, is like a cloud. The sun cannot be seen on account of a thin patch of cloud. When that disappears, one sees the sun. If by the grace of the Guru, once ego vanishes, then one sees God. Just look, I am creating a barrier in front of my face with this towel," Sri Ramakrishna said. "Now you can't see me, even though I am so near. Likewise, God is the nearest of all, but we can't see him on account of this covering of Maya. The Jiva is nothing but the embodiment of Satchidananda. But since Maya or ego has created various upadhis, he has forgotten his real self. Each upadhi changes man's nature. If he wears a fine black bordered cloth, you will at once find him humming Nidhu Babu's love songs. Then playing cards and a walking stick follow. If even a sickly man puts on high boots, he begins to whistle and climbs the stairs like an Englishman, jumping from one step to another. Money is also a great upadhi. The possessions of money make such a difference in a man. He is no longer the same person. On attaining knowledge, one goes into samadhi and the ego disappears. But it is very difficult to obtain such knowledge. It is said in the Vedas that a man experiences samadhi when his mind ascends to the seventh plane. Where does this mind of a man ordinarily dwell? Where does the mind ordinarily dwell? The mind dwells in the first three planes. Then the mind is immersed only in worldliness. Though not a disciple of the Master, Vijaya held him great respect. Sri Ramakrishna also loved Vijaya for his piety, devotion and straightforwardness. He told Vijay to give up all shames and fear as to what people would think of him if he sang and danced in the ecstasy of God's holy name. By his constant contact with Sri Ramakrishna, the spiritual horizon of this Brahma devotees expanded. Vijaya said, "What must be the bound soul's condition of mind be in order to achieve liberation?" Sri Ramakrishna said, "He can free himself from attachment to enjoyments if by the grace of God he cultivates a spirit of renunciation. One who has a mild spirit of renunciation says, 'Well, all will happen in the course of time. Let me now simply repeat the name of God.' But a man possessed of strong spirit of renunciation feels restless for God, as the mother feels for her child. A man of strong renunciation seeks nothing but God. He regards the world as a deep well and feels as if he were going to be drowned in it. He looks on his relatives and these relatives as venomous snakes. He wants to fly away from them. And he goes away. He never thinks, let me first make some arrangement for my family and then I shall think of God. He has great inward resolution. At one time, there was a drought in a certain part of the country. The farmers began to cut long channels to bring water to their fields. One farmer was stubbornly determined. It was past midday and the farmer was still at work and his wife came and said, "Why haven't you taken your bath? The food is getting cold. You can finish rest tomorrow or even today after dinner. The farmer scolded his wife and ran at her, spade in hand. And he cried, have you no sense? There is no rain, the crops are dying. What will the children eat? Through a whole day's back-breaking labor, the farmer managed by evening to connect his field with the river. With serene mind, he finished his bath and meal and retired to bed. As without strong determination, the farmer cannot bring water to his field, as with strong determination, the farmer cannot bring water to his field, so also without intense yearning, a man cannot realize God. As without strong determination, the farmer cannot bring water to his field, so also without intense yearning, a man cannot realize God. Mahimacharan was known for his pretentiousness and often engaged in discussion of scriptures. Yet the master loved him and exhorted him to meditate on the meaning of the scriptural texts and to practice spiritual discipline. He told him that after studying a little Vedanta, people start indulging in philosophical speculations, but a man of true knowledge could not be egotistic. Mahima said, can a man live in the world if his mind is once directed to God? Sri Ramakrishna replied, why not? Where will he go away from the world? I realize that whenever I live, I am always in the Ayodhya of Rama. This whole world is Rama's Ayodhya. After receiving instruction from his teacher, Rama said that he would renounce the world. Vasishtha said to Rama, may I ask you if this world is outside God? If that is so, then you may give it up. Rama found that it is God alone who has become the universe and all its living beings. In the world, a man must fight against passions like lust and anger, against many desires, against attachment. It is convenient to fight from inside a fort, from his own house. At home, he gets his food and other help from his wife. It is better to get food at one place than to knock at 7 doors for it. Living at home is like facing the battle from a fort. Living in the world, live in the world like a cast-off leaf in a gale. The leaf goes wherever the wind blows, sometimes to a good place and sometimes to a bad. Now God has put you in the world. That's good. Stay here. Again, when He lifts you from here and puts you in a better place, there will be time enough to think about what to do then. God has put you in the world. What can you do about it? Resign everything to Him. Surrender yourself at His feet. Then there will be no more confusion. Then you will realize that it is God who does everything. All depends on the will of Rama. So, what is very important is we must direct our body and mind in a proper way. That is, we must be serious about spiritual practices and try to live upon the teachings of the great master. So, once the mind gets purified, then peace of mind is the result. One will surely get the peace of mind when the impurity of the mind is removed. So Sri Ramakrishna suggests that we should cultivate devotion, surrender ourselves to God, and live a pure life and try to practice spirituality with all seriousness and earnestness. That's the way to tackle the miseries in the world. Miseries do come, but if you have the right attitude, you will be able to overcome the miseries. And then you will see the glory of God's vision. Thank you.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ. May the Divine Spirit protect us, guide us, give us strength and right understanding. May we not hate one another. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. May the Divine Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we work in harmony with great vigor. May our study be illuminating and fruitful. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.